On today's episode, we are going to share all about Halloween
and how to bring our Catholic faith into it.
So Halloween is approaching and we are getting ready for a fun day that is really geared towards youth. And it is so tempting to put Halloween into our youth ministry schedules. And it's okay. And we're going to talk about how we could do that. And so I have here with me today my pastor, Father Mazz.
Hi, everybody.
You might have heard me talk about him on previous episodes. I mentioned how he is very active in our youth ministry. He does a lot of work with our youth and with me. We work together so well. We've been working together for over 13 years, something like that.
Yeah, long time.
Amazing, right? We still love each other so much. But yes, and truly that incorporating Halloween into our schedules, we have to really know where Halloween comes from. So Father Mazz has given this talk probably, over 25 times that I've heard over our years of ministry. But he really does understand where it comes from and shares about how our Catholic faith is incorporated into it. So, Father?
Sure. Just to share a little bit, I mean, it's so interesting. Halloween has become, after Christmas, the second biggest money-oriented kind of holiday where so much money is kind of poured into its celebration. So that's kind of interesting. And then unlike the other many talks that Kari has mentioned, I'm not sure the exact number, there have been a lot. But this year may be particularly interesting to point out the connections to people's fears, particularly around death and dying, which is one of the roots of how much of we have found out about Halloween, and just fears in general. And how the Catholic faith can help address them and allay them and bring people to the peace of Jesus Christ. So very simply, before the revelations of Jesus Christ, there was the Celtic people, and not, of course, having the benefit of revelation of Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God. They, like all human beings, would look at their environment. They would wonder about things, and particularly around this time of year coming up with the passage of summer and into fall and then into winter, the elements would change. It would get very cold. You saw the death of nature all around.
And trees so dying, all of that.
All of that.
The leaves falling down, crusting up on the ground.
Definitely. And so for a lot of Celts in the area of present-day Ireland, the United Kingdom, Scotland, that whole area, they're trying to make sense of all of that, wondering what's going on. There's this death. We're surrounded by death. There is no sense, of course, of the afterlife, of heaven, of eternity, or for hell for that matter. It was just the coldness, the starkness, the grim reality, really, of death. And how do I deal with that? As a human being, it's kind of scary, especially, people didn't have central heating. Everything was very cold. There's just a fireplace in your house, maybe, and it may not have been a very large one. So the whole idea of coldness in your life and the coldness of death could be very, very overwhelming for people. So there was this struggle about understanding death. And around this time of year, with the end of the harvest, and again, the coming into the cold weather, the Celts felt that the veil between life and death was at its thinnest point, and that the people of the dead, the spirits of the dead, would use that thinness of the veil to pierce into their world, the world of the living. And for them, it was a frightening thing.
I can imagine.
And so, yeah, absolutely. So, because they saw many of the spirits of the dead as angry, as upset, mean, maybe they attribute a lot of their activity to, for example, the destruction of their crops and things like that. But there again was this struggling with death. What's going to happen to me? But on top of it, we have these spirits of the dead coming after us and trying to take our stuff, maybe trying to take us away. So different things seem to evolve or kind of come forth to deal with that. So one of the main things was bonfires, creating fires.
We love bonfires.
We love fires. We love them. warmth, light.
Right.
They thought that would kind of repel.
And they don't have too much wrong, right? Like we think about Jesus and he's the light. We think about all that. And that
absolutely
makes sense where light was good, but probably gets a little twisted as we go on.
Absolutely. And then the idea of maybe making those bonfires not only maybe in your house in the fireplace, but maybe on the edge of a hill where it can maybe have its full impact, shining its light very brightly to keep away darkness, the opposite of light. More to the point, different things crept up, like the rudiment, the kind of the basic foundation of what we call trick-or-treating. So this is probably one of the most fascinating things that I'm sure you remember this part.
Here's the good stuff, everybody.
This is the good start, right? So the idea of trick or treat. So we start with the treat part because that was the non pushback thing, the easiest thing. So they thought, well, let's try to befriend these spirits of the dead. We don't want them to harm us. And of course, what a great way to do it, then with food and drink.
Who doesn't love food and drink?
So they would make little sweet cakes and maybe little drinks, and they would put them outside their door, hoping that the spirits of the dead would come, take them, be satisfied just with that, and leave. Just take the treats, not take them. Right? And so they would do that. And if that didn't work, they had a backup plan. The backup plan was to make costumes, put on costumes. And who doesn't like to do that? Every child, every kid, every person,
it's always fun.
Costume parties, dressing up, taking for a little while someone else's maybe identity, and having the difference of a different identity, the change of a different identity, maybe the fun of a different identity. But what they zeroed in on was now the trick part and trying to put on costumes or make costumes to trick the spirits of the dead to stay away from them. So they would maybe be very ugly, very fear-invoking, very scary in their minds. We can kind of laugh at that a little bit and say, I doubt it, if it were true, that their spirits of the dead come back, that they're going to be too scared. But
they're going to be tricked by somebody in a costume.
That's kind of how they thought of it. But they were very afraid, and they felt that the Lord of Death, called Samhain, was the most active, and he was like the Lord of all the spirits of the dead, and that it was very important to really work at this to try to have this experience and to ward off death and all that encompass. So that's really the origin of trick or treat. There's a lot of other little things with pumpkins and things like that to carve out pumpkins, and again put lights in the pumpkins to
and even gourds. I've heard too, gourds too.
Yep.
From the harvest,
because they didn't have pumpkins in that area of the world. They're more of a thing relative to the North America. Right. But I think the main point for us as Catholics, as Christians, is that we're so blessed to have the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of our Catholic faith rooted in Judaism, of course, teaching us about what the Lord has said to us about not being afraid of anything, including death. The St. Paul reminding us that our citizenship is not here on earth, it's in heaven. So we have something after this. Of course, we have to live a virtuous, righteous life. That's so important. But that with aligning yourself to the Lord and His will, then you have something wonderful to look forward to. Not something to be afraid of at all, but something to look forward to. Then we should not fear death. And so we, at this time of year, as Catholics, particularly around Halloween time, we talk about the end things, the what's called the eschatological reality, the things of final nature. So our death, our judgment, heaven, hell, and purgatory. Remember, for the Celts, and their great high priests were called the Druids, by the way, they felt that around that time, October 31st, November 1st, was the peak. So the church, in her wisdom,
so smart,
and capitalized on that, if you will, or tried to help people along, meeting where they're at, if you will. November 1st, made November 1st, as way back as as in the year 800 AD, made 800 AD, made November 1st All Saints Day.
We know that as All Saints Day.
All Saints Day.
So great.
To think about all those who've gone before us, marked with the sign of faith, who've done a bang-up job, excellent job, are now in heaven.
Big S, saint. S-A-I-N-T.
That's it, exactly.
Right.
And the night before is called the Eve of all the holy ones, all hallowed, Halloween, the Eve of all holy ones. So we are always, trying to bring everything back to the truth, who is Christ. And he is the light of the world. He identified himself as the light of the world. He identified his followers as children of the light. And so we don't have to fear darkness, literal darkness. We don't have to fear figurative darkness. We don't have to fear the darkness of death.
Right.
Because if we are with the Lord, then what will come will actually, in reality, be great light.
Yep. So smart. So those ways that we can utilize it into our Catholic Christian youth ministry programs are, first, we heard about All Saints Day. Father mentioned that. And it's really wise that it's right near Halloween. So right around the time you would have a Halloween party, instead, why not have an All Saints Day party? Dress up as a saint, and you can incorporate the things of Halloween. One of the things that youth love about Halloween are getting those treats, getting those candies and different things that are handed out. So something that I've done before is have the youth dress up as saints, and then we have different stations around our campus of our youth ministry and our church, and they can go trick-or-treating around to these stations. But instead of saying trick-or-treat, they just go and they receive candy, and at those stations are placed a core team leader or a young adult leader who shares about a different saint that they love. So they're not only learning about a saint, they also receive a prayer card there for that saint as well.
Great.
They get to receive the trick-or-treat, the candy. So it's kind of a good way to incorporate it. Other ways that you can do is you can still have the pumpkin carving. And with the pumpkin carving, what we've done is we've carved pumpkins like normal. You try to keep them nice and fun instead of scary and creepy. And once we had the pumpkins carved, we placed little lights, whether they be battery operated or a tea light inside of it. And then we've read a poem about how Christians are like pumpkins. And that is, we have Christ's light inside of us, and we are trying to spread it outward. And it's a beautiful poem I found one time just out there, and I do read it each year when we do this pumpkin carving. So I think that's kind of a nice way.
Beautiful.
And you could also do the same thing with pumpkin painting. Just have a pumpkin painting night geared again towards a Christian theme, maybe with saints quotes or with just different images of crucifixes or crosses, and paint them on. So again, another way to make Halloween, but just not so much about what it's about, but more about what our Catholic faith is about. And then lastly, I would say if you are going to make it a Halloween party, which it's nothing wrong with having a Halloween party, but try to not really focus on the scary things, the devil-like things, the ghoulish, the skeletons, but more so focus on things that are, just the colors, maybe orange and black. You can use them as a theme, or just different cute things about it. Instead of having a scariest Halloween costume, have a funniest Halloween costume, most unique Halloween costume, most creative Halloween costume contest. Any way you could do it to make it less about the evil one and more about just the fun and the joy that kids like to have with Halloween. So those are a few ways that you can make Halloween Catholic in your youth ministry program. And remember, if you touch their hearts, you touch the souls of the youth. So
absolutely.
Keep up the good work in the vineyard of the Lord. God bless everyone.
God bless you.